Oil prices continue to get battered by this oil price war today. Oil prices are $20 a barrel for WTI, Brent crude 26. There's a few things I want to cover. Donald Trump is calling Putin today, and I believe the conversation's already taken place, and there's a lot of conspiracy as to how the conversation went. Ted Cruz called the ambassador with 9 other senators, putting a tremendous amount of pressure on Saudi Arabia, making policy threats that can make their world much worse than it already is. And the other thing I want to talk about is the Iranians using the Houthi rebels to drop bombs in Saudi Arabia. I had posted a video not too long ago, and hours later, the bombs were dropped. And one of the things I talked about is Russia possibly using Saudi forces as a proxy to drop bombs on key oil fields in Saudi Arabia. If you look here, President Donald Trump said he's concerned oil prices have fallen too far and called Putin on Monday to discuss Russia's oil price war with Saudi Arabia. And they agreed to discussions on oil between energy officials in the two countries, according to the Kremlin. And so they're going to have energy officials have a chat. Now, I'm telling you right now, I don't think they're going to get anything done, because if you remember the Cuban Missile Crisis, okay, the Cuban Missile Crisis happened. Russia sent missiles into Cuba because we were giving military force and power and weapons to Turkey. Okay, that was in Putin's backyard. That was in Russia's backyard, and it upset them. And so they said, okay, we're going to go in your backyard and threaten you. Let's see how you like that. Okay, now, and so the way they dealt with that was there was no bombs dropped. They pulled out of Turkey. America did, and then Russia pulled out of Cuba, and that de-escalated the situation. Well, the same thing is happening now. We're in Russia's backyard again. Okay, we're in Ukraine. We are giving Ukraine military weapons to attack Russia. And so what does Putin do? He goes into Venezuela, in our backyard again, just miles away from Miami. And so bottom line, Putin is digging his heels in to come against us. Okay, so there's a lot more going on than just the oil price war. Okay, Putin is directly waging economic warfare on America. And considering that Ted Cruz is making the statements, the stiff statements to Saudi Arabia, I'm pretty sure Donald Trump and Ted Cruz has the same idea as far as foreign policy regarding this oil price war. It'll be interesting to find out what's they're actually talking about. There's a lot of reports saying Trump is probably lightening the sanctions on Putin in order to get them to stop this oil price war. But Putin's economy is being destroyed right now at $20 oil, and he has to win this oil price war because Shell is bankrupting his country. Okay, he's losing a lot of money. Let's go to Senator Ted Cruz interview today.
President Trump is speaking this morning, and he's saying at this point that he's going to be calling the Russian President Putin today to talk about oil and other matters. He also says that Saudi Arabia and Russia both went crazy on the oil issue. Coming from the state of Texas, obviously, the lower oil prices are a big hit there. Do you think the president should use his influence with either Saudi Arabia or Russia to try and get them to stop producing so much oil right now?
Absolutely. I think that is a major priority, especially for my home state of Texas. And if you look at what happened right in the midst of this coronavirus crisis, a public health crisis that is dominating our focus, and an economic crisis that is flowing from it, millions of people losing their jobs, the Saudis and the Russians chose to take advantage of that crisis by flooding the market and driving the price of oil way, way down. And that was opportunistic. It was designed with a very explicit purpose that the Saudis are hoping to drive out of business American producers, and in particular shale producers, largely in the Permian Basin in Texas and in North Dakota, although also in a number of oil-producing states across the country. That behavior, I think, is wrong, and I think it is taking advantage of a country that's a friend. You know, a couple of weeks ago, I joined with a total of 13 senators in a letter to the Saudi ambassador calling on the Saudis to pull back and allow the price of oil to stabilize, to stop trying to drive it down artificially low. we did a conference call with the Saudi ambassador. There were, I think, nine of the 13 did a conference call. That, Becky, I got to tell you, was as candid a call and direct a call as I've ever had with a foreign leader, where the 9 of us, I mean, we, quite frankly, unloaded on her. And their defense was essentially, well, but Russia's doing this. And I can tell you my response. I said, well, that's fine, but Russia is not our friend. We know they're not our friend, and we treat them accordingly. We are aware their intentions to us are malign. The Saudi kingdom is supposed to be our friend, and we are a military ally, we are a diplomatic ally, and you are not behaving like a friend when you are trying to destroy thousands and thousands of small businesses all across Texas and the country. And so the senators on the call with the ambassador urged vigorously, and we said, listen, there are a whole series of steps we can take to escalate foreign policy pressure, and we outlined a number of them. If you continue engaging in economic warfare against the United States, trying to drive down the price of oil in order to exploit this coronavirus crisis to drive a bunch of American producers out of business. I'm hopeful the president will echo that same message, and I'm hopeful the Saudis will hear it, because those 13 senators not only were from were the strongest champions of energy and oil and gas, but those 13 senators have also historically been the strongest allies in the Senate of Saudi Arabia, and if they don't change their course, the relationship with the United States is going to change very fast.
I love what Ted Cruz said to the ambassador. He said there's a whole host, a series of steps we can take to escalate the foreign policy economic warfare. Saudi Arabia has declared economic warfare on America. Okay, Ted Cruz is using very strong words, saying there's a series of steps to escalate the foreign policies we have on you. And he made it very clear, you guys are exploiting this situation with this COVID-19. They're taking full advantage. Okay, now I'm pretty sure that Donald Trump is probably having a similar conversation with Putin. All right, Putin has been very clear. He's been very tough on China. He's been very tough on Iran. I mean, there are people dying in Iran right now because they don't have the aid that they need, and these sanctions are preventing them from getting this monetary aid that they need. People are dying right now. So Trump isn't playing games here. And so he's been very tough on Iran, very tough on China, and he's being very tough on Saudi Arabia, and he's being tough on Russia. So he's not going to give in to Russia's demand to lower these sanctions. Hey, Putin's probably having a conversation like, look, if you give me in this area, if you stop sanctioning me in this area so I could continue to dictate and to make money, I'll stop doing this. He doesn't do business with dictators. He represents the most powerful country in the world with the most powerful economy and the most powerful military. Putin isn't going to boss him around, tell him what to do. Okay, so Donald Trump is probably having a hard conversation. All right, and I can imagine this is probably causing Putin to dig his heels in even more. Okay, Putin's got the guts to send in military into Venezuela, which they're pulling out. They sold their assets, their oil assets in Venezuela. So there's something happening out there for them to just completely pull out. Maduro is getting indicted. There's a major bounty on his head right now. And I wonder if Putin is pulling out completely. I don't know. I don't know if he's going to pull out military, but I'm sure he's going to use his military force in Venezuela as a bargaining chip, because he's in our backyard to get us out of Ukraine. Okay. So, but Putin is taking full advantage and exploiting this COVID-19. He's waging economic warfare, him and Saudi Arabia, against the shell industry. Okay. And so the next thing I want to chat about is the Saudi Arabia was bombed. And I posted a video about how I believe Russia is going to use Iran as a proxy to drop bombs in Saudi Arabia. And within hours of me posting that video, bombs were dropped in Saudi Arabia. And there's a lot of misleading reports. Some say that every single missile fired by the Houthi rebels from Iran was intercepted. Okay. And then there are very trusted gentlemen that have insiders in all over the Middle East are getting different reports saying, no, they did not stop every missile. Actually, many of them hit targets. And so there was missiles dropped on key places in Saudi Arabia. And Saudi Arabia is not going to tell the truth because they don't want Iran to get 1 inch of success. And obviously there's media blackout about this. Let's watch this and I'll weigh in on it.
Riyadh head outside to investigate explosions. Saudi Arabia's air defense force say it intercepted and destroyed a ballistic missile over the capital on Saturday. Saudi media said American Patriot missile defense systems were used. They added a missile also targeted the southern coastal city of Jazan near the Yemeni border. Witnesses in Riyadh said they heard 3 explosions, then the sirens of emergency vehicles in the north of the city. Houthi rebels have frequently launched missiles from Yemen into Saudi Arabia, retaliation for its involvement in Yemen's now 5-year civil war. The last strike on Riyadh was in June 2018. Another Houthi attack took out 2 major oil installations last September that nearly halved Saudi oil output.
This one was only 2 missiles, and this is why I believe that all of this is a PR stunt from the Houthis to appear stronger than they actually are.
Fighting has intensified recently, with the Houthis expanding their territory by taking control of Al Jawf province near the Saudi border and looking to advance on the oil-rich province of Marib, where there's been fierce fighting in recent weeks.
They are running hard and fast right now, so I think it's very clear to me, at any rate, that these will have come from the Houthis. This is a message, if you will, to the Saudis that you are vulnerable to us, and we have the capability to hit you pretty well anywhere we would choose.
So the Houthi rebels, Iran has made it very clear, like, look, this is not the last bombs we're going to drop. I truly believe that Russia is using Iran as a proxy to drop bombs on key places in Saudi Arabia, and Iran has made it very clear, like, look, we're going to continue to drop bombs, and they mean business. I mean, they dropped bombs on military bases, U.S. military bases in Iraq. They dropped bombs in the cities of Saudi Arabia, and they're not playing games right now. So it's only going to escalate. Is Saudi Arabia going to listen to the demands of the 9 senators that called Saudi Arabia, putting pressure on them, foreign pressure on them? So this is a very interesting situation. There's a lot of people at a standstill right now. Saudi Arabia and Russia have an oil price war. Trump and Putin had a very serious conversation. Who is going to give in to that, to those demands, whatever those demands are? Putin has demands on Trump, and Trump has demands on Putin. Who's going to blink first? Is Ted Cruz's demands against Saudi Arabia, are they going to be met? So a lot of exciting things are happening, and I know for a fact there's going to be more bombs dropped in Saudi Arabia. And if Putin is really pulling the strings of the Houthi rebels, which I really believe it, because Iran is getting a tremendous amount of help from Russia, then Russia is, I guarantee you, their agenda is to destroy Saudi oil. Because if they can't beat Shell, because we know that Donald Trump is getting involved in Shell. He's going to use subsidies. He's pumping trillions of dollars into the economy, and he's going to do whatever it takes to keep the oil industry in America from falling. Okay, and Putin, if he can't beat Shell, in other words, if he can't beat Donald Trump, then his only other alternative in order to make his oil valuable is destroying Saudi oil. Okay. And so whether it's Iran or Trump, it makes no difference, because Iran wants oil prices to go up as well. And everybody knows that as long as there is shale, oil prices will never be above $70, $80, $100 a barrel. And so it's going to be very interesting what Trump, how is he going to perform foreign diplomacy? What are we going to do to Saudi Arabia? What are we going to do to Russia? What are we going to do to Venezuela? Are we going to take out Maduro? How is Putin going to handle that? So there's a lot of chess pieces moving around, which the more chess pieces moving around, the more likelihood of escalation in the Middle East. And when there's escalation in the Middle East, oil prices go up. So I'm Sean Pruitt, President of Kingdom Exploration. If you like these videos, please subscribe to my channel. Go into my description if you wish to learn more. Thanks.